Good morning, y'all. How you doing? Welcome into the coffee conversation with your boy Joe Locker. I am live right here at the Filter Coffee Parlor this morning. Y'all know what time it is. Before I even get into this show, guess what, y'all? I gotta tell y'all, thank y'all. Man, this show has blown up beyond, our wildest dreams. Last week's show was awesome. You guys are sharing, you guys are commenting. Thank you. Y'all are having coffee with your boy. I ain't know y'all gonna like me like that. What's going on? And y'all know this is my butterscotch right here. You know what I'm saying? The Filter Coffee Parlor. Yes, I am doing a plug. Make sure y'all come on down if you live in Birmingham, Alabama. And if you don't live in Birmingham, Alabama, and you're visiting, you got to come to the south side of Birmingham and come down to the Filter Coffee Parlor. They got the best coffee, the tea, all the coffee cakes, and all of the good stuff. Now, I usually do a monologue, America. A lot to say. I'm just going to tell y'all this week, my diet is going good. Y'all see my turtleneck, I'm popping, ladies. What y'all think? I'm gonna post some thirst trap pictures a little bit later on. Okay, y'all liking that? Y'all like the new style? You like it? Can you see me? How y'all doing? My diet. Let me tell y'all something. I actually, fellas, I'm 54. I changed my diet just a tad bit, right? I have taken sugar out of my diet, and so it has changed for me. At the end of the day, it just went ahead and slimmed me on down because I don't eat a lot, and I was wondering why I was still having a little puffy look. It was the little sugar that I was drinking it. Honestly, it was those Powerade drinks that I was drinking, right? So now I drink Powerade Zero, right? So I've taken almost all the sugar out, and now your boy got that six pack showing for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? I gotta say, ladies, I'm looking real good. So anyway, that's just a little health tip out there for you in your 50s. Make sure that you guys watching your diets, and make sure also you're watching the sugar. And speaking of sugar, I got a beautiful woman on this show today. She's married, lovely family, been knowing her for years. Now, I ain't the smartest cat in the bunch, y'all. Okay, I got to tell y'all this. I don't have no degrees. I can't read nor wrote. Okay, I dot I sometimes I don't cross my T's. Right, I got a high school education. So when I bring people on, I bring on the beautiful people of Birmingham, Alabama, but also they highly educated. See, I'm educated. This is the one and only. I know a lot of people know. I know you've heard of Skynet. And if you think we're going to talk about that today, all right, you heard of technology. Yeah, she got some big words and all of the other stuff that I'm not going to even begin to mention here, but she got these letters in front of her name. She's one of my dearest friends. I'm going to introduce her to the world. Y'all, we're going to have a conversation with the one, the only, the phenomenal Dr. Alice Gordon Holloway is on Coffee and Conversation with your boy. Let's get it in. How you doing?
I am great, Joe. How are you
I
doing?
am doing good. I want to know why you're dressing like me or am I dressing like you?
We are like in sync, right?
And we didn't even talk about this.
No, we have the black on and the burgundy on, so it must be a good day.
All right, Dr. Holloway, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, is it okay if I call you Alice?
Please do. I'll be disappointed if you did not.
Okay.
Because we've been knowing each other for a really long
Yes,
time.
but like I told you, some people get bougie. You know what I'm saying? They get them dollars in front of their name, and I have to say Dr. Holloway. But I was going to do it if you needed me to. So how have you been doing, Alice?
I've been doing great, Joe. I'm so happy to be here in this great coffee shop. I am actually a tea aficionado.
Okay, you like so what kind of tea you got this morning?
I am actually having a black tea.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a tea that has honey in it. So I'm with you. I really limit the sugar, and being at a place that actually offers something other than just regular sugar is great. So either agave or either honey, but really limiting that as well is really important for me.
Now, so Alice, I haven't seen you in probably about a good.
Oh, I'm afraid to say, Joe.
Well, it's probably 6-7 years
in person, but I see you on radio.
We see each other all the time, right?
Yes.
We talk and we, for social media, but it's seeing in person because you're always steadily gone. When I see you, now I got to say this, y'all. Your social media is the bomb. I love all these things that you're doing, the 3D stuff. Like, I don't know if you got 20K, I think it's 4K, 8K, whatever. But it's like, when I'm like, look at how popping out on my screen and stuff. I'm like, look at you.
Thank you.
You really stepped up your social media game.
I did. I actually brought in an expert to help me.
Okay.
DJ Strict is here in the Alabama area, and he's nationally known. And he's actually been a guiding force for me, and basically allowing me to see myself in a different way and basically reinvent my brand.
Right.
And so him along with a few other people, but he's the lead chief in charge of that. And he gives good direction. He's gives good insight. He's a Christian.
Yes.
And it really makes it easier for me to work with him because he kind of gets my vision.
Right.
And so, but also too, he understands where I'm trying to go. And it's been a great.
And here's the thing. I hope he watching.
I hope he's watching.
No, finna say something again. I'm finna slide on him right now. he's Kim Scott's husband.
Yes, definitely. And both
You know,
of them
he
are
was that guy
extraordinary.
right now, but now his wife is that woman, right?
Mhm,
The
mhm.
flutist, the bad girl that's out there
Yes, she
everywhere.
is,
So
she
now
is.
he's he's the husband of the one and only phenomenal Kim Scott. Go watch her page too, because he's doing
Yes.
some amazing stuff for
They
her
both
too.
are really experts.
Yes,
in
I
their
am.
craft.
I've been knowing them for years. I'm super proud of her. All her #1 hits and stuff. Jazz,
Yes.
man, she's a bad girl.
Yes, she is. I think she's got something big coming out. Her album next
Uh-huh.
week.
Really?
As well in 2012. Well, maybe
I
the week
got
after
to-
next.
You know
Yeah.
something? I got to see, can I get her on the show?
Well, hey, keep working on it. She's pretty dynamic.
And it's hard to get you on the show, ma'am. So you know you've been busy.
I have been. I've been very, very intentional about what I do these days, and it's
Okay.
been pretty exciting for me. But I'm really getting a chance to sit down with you is something that I'm treasuring because we have not had this forum in a while.
Right.
And well, beforehand, actually,
Right.
I've been watching you and commenting and
Uh-huh.
kind of prodding you along and just encouraging you along the way and saying, "Go, Joe, go."
You
Joe.
always have been in my corner over all the years when we've met through different things. You've always been there. Like, you know, I'm proud of you. Keep doing it. If you ever need anything from me, you know, be there. Now, I want to get into, for anybody who don't know Dr. Alice Gordon Holloway. Let's get into your story. Let's have this conversation.
Okay.
All right. So I know you're married. How many kids do you have?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me take it back a little bit.
Okay, take it back. Let's go.
So I'm originally from Mobile.
Okay.
And so I moved to Birmingham, 20 plus years ago.
Okay.
And I've been able to really make Birmingham my home.
Okay.
But I do travel a good bit. And so I still go back to Mobile. Mardi Gras is coming up. So of course, right now, it's all about Mardi Gras. And so I do have a blended family. So we have 3 kids and we have 2 boys and 1 girl. And I've been married about 9 years. And so
9 years.
9 years, yes. And,
my friend, go ahead, girl. 9 years. You got
9
past that
years.
terrible
I
7.
did, but it's being with your friend,
right?
And really not taking everything so seriously.
Shout out to Mr. Holloway.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's been a good. It's been a good journey. It's been a good journey, and so with that, I've been able to kind of find my sweet spot in terms of relationships, but also with people and my brand as well. So that's been great. You mentioned about a lot of degrees, Joe. I will just say that
before we get to them degrees, can I say your husband got you glowing over here? You got that glow. You got that glow.
I laugh really loud.
No, but that's fine. But no, when you're happy,
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You can tell a woman that's married and she ain't happy. And you can tell a woman when you say your husband,
mm-hmm.
that right there. Yeah.
It's easy. It's fun. You know what I mean? But we have a lot of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you have peace in a relationship, you really find out that you tend to be happier because the strife is not there. Now you're going to have issues.
Right.
You're going to have concerns.
Right.
But I think you have a supporter who actually is a witness to your life. That's what really marriage should be. Someone who's there along the way, kind of keeping things in order and keeping you focused sometimes because every now and then, I get off on a tangent. I want to go do something really crazy.
Right.
And he'll say, well, did you think about that, Alice? And I have to kind of think, okay, well, he's in my corner for my best interest. But at the same time, every now and then we have to kind of just jump out.
But you trust him.
I do.
Look at him. Look at that smile, y'all.
I do.
That is love right there. You don't see this. No, seriously, the glow when you talk about your husband that I see. Honestly, I am so happy for you guys. I'm gonna circle back around and we ain't through with him.
Okay.
But I want to get on these degrees because I know you as Allison Gordon, the CEO, Sky Connect, right? Mom, entrepreneur.
Right.
All of a sudden, I started seeing these letters pop up.
Yes.
Talk to your boy about that.
Okay. Well, I got my MBA.
You got who?
My MBA, my Master's in Business Administration.
Okay.
Later in life.
Okay.
And then, so that was great for a while. But even early on in my career, I didn't think I needed an additional degree initially. This has been, 20 plus years ago. But over time, times change, people change, the economy changed. So I went back and get the MBA. And then I realized, okay, I really needed a different level of thought and thinking. So, and really mastering a different level of concept, just because I was interested. My area is business. I'm a business professor. And I really wanted to continue deepening my knowledge so I could actually share my knowledge with other people. And so I went back later in life, in my 40s, to get a PhD. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
You went back to college in your 40s?
Yes, actually late 40s. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, Joe. I must say that I really realized that I see why people don't do it, because of the fact it is a challenge.
So did you do night school, day school?
I actually traveled down in school every other weekend for the last nearly 4 years.
For 4 years?
Nearly 4 years. I survived the pandemic, because we were out of school during the pandemic. We had to go online during that time as well. But I was so entrenched in the program at the University of South Alabama, I was not going to quit. And I realized that it's designed to make it difficult because you sift out, and they're only in the world, only maybe 2 to 3% of the world has a PhD.
Right.
And so that was a really big issue for me to really try to be in that number, but more importantly, to challenge myself.
Right.
To challenge myself because I don't really have to have, all of this because people are successful without degrees.
Right.
But I think for me, that was a personal goal of mine. And then my mother was 15 years old when she had me.
Really?
15 years old.
I didn't know that.
I was born in a home for unwed mothers in Nashville, Tennessee. And, really saw a lot as a kid that I didn't think I was going to get to this point. And so to be able to get to this point now later in life is kind of my own story. It's like my own way of saying, okay, you're okay. You survived. You made it through. Now move forward. So I don't necessarily look back anymore. I look forward to see what's happening next. So, so having these additional degrees is just something that I have enjoyed getting, but it's not necessarily defining who I am. It just gives me some additional credibility, I hope.
So I want to touch a little bit on what you just said because that's a lot. In your 40s, right? Everything going on financially, mentally, spiritually, right? For women listening to us have this conversation that's thinking about that, right? I got to ask you this question. What the hell kept you going for 4 years? I mean, because most kids don't even last when they're in their 20s to go. When you got your life and all this stuff going on, the pandemic and stuff. I know you said you loved it. I got it. But you travel weekend after weekend for 4 years to get that degree. What is that drive that you had on the days you didn't want to go? See, when we have conference and conversation, this is what this is about.
What we talked about.
Yeah. What was that feeling today like? I don't feel like doing this.
Well, you know what, Joe? I'm not a quitter.
Okay.
And so that was a really big issue for me that I wanted to get to a finish line. And that's not always easy because there's no straight path sometimes when you're pursuing these additional degrees. You get to a certain point, but in a PhD, it's not like a regular degree where you just know you're going to finish in 4 years or you're going to finish in 2 years.
Right.
You finish when you finish. Sometimes it could be 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years.
Right.
And so that was one thing. And I also remember I grew up in a rural town in Alabama as well before I moved down to Mobile. And I had a really strong aunt. And she was really, she taught gifted children. And so she actually was one of those teachers who didn't let you say get, got, ain't. Those words we say all the time. We're gonna do something. It was really more so a high level expectation. And so that's been in me. And that's a drive that I think that's been in my internal.
So it was instilled in you
early on. Yeah, to try your best. And if you don't make, at least say you tried everything you could to get there. And so that's kind of what it was. And I realized at that point, I was looking ahead too. I knew at some point I'm going to be 60 or 70 years old if God's willing. So what is my legacy going to be? What, so that's what happens when you get older, you get kids, you start thinking, okay, what happens next? You remember, right? Scratching your head on it, right?
Yeah.
And so I was doing the same thing. And I just realized that I enjoyed education. I enjoyed learning, and I wanted to be a lifelong learner. So that was kind of the motivation for it.
I think what's really cool, and I haven't spoke with your kids, but I'm quite sure seeing mom go back to school and go get that degree pushed them to make sure that they're going to get theirs too. Because I know that was something special. Now, what was it like walking across that stage and having your, come on. What was it like walking off that stage and having your family?
Let me tell you this. First of all, I remember my son saying, Mom, we never go outside anymore. Because it was so daunting that we did not do a lot. I mean, for those time periods. And so luckily I would say go when you have younger kids, if possible, because they, hopefully you can, kind of have some help at that time, or go when they're older. And so mine was in the middle. So I kind of did the hard way. However, walking across the stage, I really wanted to do a somersault. I want to do the electric slide.
Right.
I wanted to do, a two-step because I felt so invigorated. Like I did it. And it was all me. And if I didn't do it, it was all me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So either way it goes.
Like Snoop Dogg said, last and not least, I want to thank me.
Exactly. But I also had a village of people who just really were praying for me during that time, who really encouraged me. But really, honestly, Joe, for the first couple of years, I didn't tell anybody I was going to school.
Wait a minute. What?
I didn't know because I didn't want the expectation. I didn't want
Wait. Stop. Hold on. How are you going? What?
it was so difficult.
That's selfish.
Yeah, I was trying to be realistic about the fact that this is going to be something I was going to do, but I wasn't 100% sure how it was going to turn out. I knew I was going to work hard and make it happen, but I knew there were people who did not necessarily always finish because they, because of whatever.
And you didn't want the distractions from the naysayers or something.
Right? I didn't want anybody to ask me about it because I just want to get through it. So I really, the first year or so, I just had to make it happen.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then once I was ready to tell people, I was able to communicate.
So you was ready to tell people when you knew you was going to.
When I knew I was going to stay in it.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that was a player move or a boss move, but it worked.
I think it's a little bit of both, though. It's a safety mechanism because sometimes I've done that too, though. I've done things and people don't find out till later that I'm doing it because I got to figure out how to do it first, and I don't like noise. Right?
Okay.
So, and for whatever reason, the people closest to us, you tell me what you think about this. Gonna ask you the dumbest ass questions. You know what I'm saying? That's going to take away from what you're trying to do, right? Because the question they're asking you is not in support. It's a question that's probably going to be a little bit negative or Debbie Downer type question they may ask you.
I see.
Where you go, so are you sure? Like, did you want to do this? Don't never ask me, am I sure, when I'm trying to get to a spot?
Well, I think some people, they put their own perspectives and their own fears on other people. So sometimes you got to be careful about that.
Very
and
true.
I do believe there's something to be said for operating in silence, where you're actually making things happen. It's almost like a baker. You see all these great cakes and all these great things happen, but you didn't see behind the scenes where they're coming in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, getting things done, staying up late, doing the extra work, and the actions make the difference. And so then you ultimately see, oh, it's a great pastry, it's a great dessert, but you didn't see what happened in the background. And so sometimes you're right, Joe. Sometimes you need to be in the background and then just show up and say, oh, I've been doing this all along.
Right. Because when people look at you, right, they wouldn't know that you are a by-six entrepreneur person that got all these different businesses, right? Because I want to talk about Skynet.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I've been hearing about that for a long period of time.
Yes.
But I want to go here before we go into Skynet and all that good stuff. Back with the education. In the society where we're in now, people are looking at women differently.
Yeah.
Right. And there are certain things that are happening in our society where, people are saying where certain people are not qualified. And I love the way you told your story, right? You went to school for 4 years, right? You travel to get that education.
That's right.
And can I ask, because I don't know if did you say it, but you got your degree in what?
Thank you for asking that. My degree is in business management. So I have my PhD is in entrepreneurship, corporate strategy, and competitive advantage strategies. And so I'm actually a business management professor. So I focus on entrepreneurship and corporate development. So I do a lot in the organizational space for major companies, and I support entrepreneurship as well.
Right. So what do you feel, and what would you want to say to the young women that are in high school, that are going to college right now? Right, where things are going to be a little bit tougher. You know what I'm saying? What would you say to those women? Because you went through it. You stood on the shoulders of the women that went through it before you.
Yes.
Now, I want people to really understand what I'm saying here, right? Women are finna stand on your shoulders, right? But it's different, right? The way it's going to be, because it's easier. They're not going to have to sit on the back of the bus. They can go drink from any water fountain. They can eat in a restaurant now, right? So you don't see that the things that is taken away from you, it's not really taken away. But you understood that because of the shoulders you stood on, the strong aunties, the grandmas, you understood that.
That's right. That's right.
Do you believe, this is a lot of questions, but I know you're going to catch me here, that the young women are going to have the gravitas when the time comes to go to college, to keep going, to do it on the weekends, and feel it's necessary and understand what it means, because now they're standing on your shoulders?
Wow, Joe, you've hit on a really big mountain here, almost a really exciting mountain, actually. I do think our women are destined for greatness. I think that every woman that's watching this program today has the ability for great things to happen for her in her life. I think there's a positioning strategy that we should think about as well. So I guess several things. One is I want women to realize you don't have to go to college to get the same type of degree that maybe I have or someone else has to be successful. Okay, that's number one. Because there are people out there who've done really, really well without without the major education, but they simply have had life education, life skills, life experiences, or YouTube University. Okay. Even though I advocate for additional experience and learning, I think there are other ways to get it. Okay. And I think also too, for women right now is a great time for us, because with all the tools that are out there, with so many tools, everywhere you turn, there is a computer right here next to you. Always encourage women to be lifelong learners. Never let never let whatever barrier into your life that you can't overcome, because you can review it, you can read about it, you can research, excuse me, you can chat GPT it. And so there are all these tools out there that allows women to really be able to educate themselves. In addition to that, I think that this power circle is that we need to keep empowering each other. You need to call a woman who you say, hey, I want to encourage you. I want to lift you up. I want to showcase you. And I always tell people, I had a brunch with a couple of ladies last week. I said, and use your power. If you're in an organization, if you're in a company, or you're able to do it, use your power. That means invite a woman to go to a luncheon with you. Invite someone to go to a reception with you. Invite them to be on a board with you. Invite them to come to a meeting with you. Invite them to just be a part of a conversation.
But are women going to do that? Because this is what, just me as a man.
Okay. I need to drink my tea on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
If y'all just liking it right now, I got the fabulous Dr. Alice Gordon Holloway in the studio with me today. We're having conversation and tea this morning. But correct me if I'm wrong. Women, y'all are y'all worst enemy sometimes. I don't know. And reason why I'm gonna say this, you go give me evil eye, you can come at me, that's fine. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? We gonna do this. Most women tell me that it's hard for them to be friends with women. They're friends. They prefer to have a male friend most times. Women are really catty when it comes to and competitive, from what I've been told. Now, I could be wrong, Dr. Holloway. Okay, I'm gonna go to the doctor part now because I'm gonna get in trouble. Go ahead.
All right. So first of all, I do think that we support each other.
Okay.
I think that we may not support each other in the massive numbers that we need to. Okay. I also think that there is something to be said for people who, when you want to be a friend, you have to show yourself friendly.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh,
that's
like
another
that.
thing. Yeah.
So say that one more time.
If you want to be a friend and attract friends, you have to show yourself friendly.
Y'all need to take notes on that and write that down while you're having coffee.
And then I think there's also intentionality. So it's nothing to heart someone's post or to give a thumbs up or to have a reaction to someone who makes something great. At a girl. Okay. Lift each other up. It could be small. It could be something simple, but that little simple gesture could mean the world to someone.
Yes.
And I also believe we have text messages. We text message all the time. Send them a, hey, great to talk to you. Hopefully you're doing well. Maybe nothing big, but I do think it's intentional relationship. And so you're right. People do have their own personal experiences, from relationships. We all have traumas and scars. Right. I do agree with that, Joe. But I don't necessarily know if I want to wholesale say we don't support each other. I think that we probably need to have the numbers themselves may not necessarily showcase it, but I do think that women are empowering each other. And I must say there are a lot of women who've poured into me, who've helped me grow my business, who helped me get acclimated to Birmingham, because I was a little scarred at first, being a newcomer in the city. But I do believe that has changed, but also too, I see myself differently. I see myself as a resource. And so I actually talk about this a lot as being a resource broker. So that way, if I don't know for sure, for example, a friend of mine, a lady who's really nice, introduced you and I years ago.
I think everybody here in Birmingham knows her, Rhonda Robertson.
Absolutely. Rhonda introduced me to you, and I had an issue. You helped me with my issue. And it was
she met me when I was a contractor. I owned a contracting company. I had a hammer and I had a tool belt on, and I did some work at a house back in the day.
And you were excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent then, professional, on time, and you're the same way now.
Thank you.
So I'm just really encouraged for you, and I'm excited for you, Joe, talking about all this good stuff. But yeah, Rhonda helped me to get introduced to you. So she was becoming a relationship broker to me at a time I needed help. So we should continue to recommend each other for certain things, enhance opportunities, and not hoard it, because just because my light is shining, it doesn't dim your light for me to enhance your light.
I think we all, not just women, I think all of us need to, work on that, right? And that's me. You've known me over the years. I've always shared my platform with people.
You
right?
do, yes.
Because I always believe that when I shine, you shine. When you shine, I shine. Now, I haven't always gotten to shine back from that person.
Yes.
But the one thing I can always say is all these lights here shining on us, God has always shined a light on me.
Yes, he is. And I think that's something we need to be thinking about too. that God is always kind of watching over us.
Yes.
But it depends on, you have to put your action in place.
Yes.
For him to give you that ability to kind of keep moving as well. I want to go back to one issue you mentioned too, about women in organizations and women who are leaders. So part of the platform I focus on and talk about a lot and have been for many years is helping women to succeed in the workplace.
Okay.
And I remember at a time when I was working in an organization here in the city, and there was a lady. This was a time when women didn't necessarily women were wearing pantyhose, and and that was a big thing for us, slips and that sort of thing, kind of a girl thing. And
I remember. And the skirts came down to him.
Yes, exactly. And so I remember a lady who I actually was watching in the corporate who actually one time did not wear pantyhose for a meeting. And I thought, oh, wow. So I was watching her over the years to transition the fact that we can do different things and still be considered professional without necessarily compromising our intellectual, capabilities.
Okay, so I want to make sure we want to slow that story down. Let's go back and make sure people heard what you were saying. So you was in corporate, and this was doing. I'm going to say probably 80s had to be, or 90s.
This was in 2000. Yeah, 2000. Because corporate is still pretty formal.
Really?
Yeah, corporate is still a formal structure.
Okay, so it's in 2000. Okay.
Yeah, formal structure as well.
Okay.
And of course, I was young in my career at the time, obviously.
Gotcha.
And so even though I started, in the 90s in certain areas, still working in the corporate sector came a little bit later. And just watching other women who actually traverse the landscape of, can we wear our hoops in the workplace?
Right.
Can we wear our blinging jewelry like I have on today?
Right.
Do we need to always be looking like, the guys? And so watching other women in the workplace really helped me to see where I was going to fit in. So I must say that we need us to be in those workplaces, but we also need to be able to sit back and say, okay, let's have a kitchen cabinet. And let's really talk about this, what's really happening. And I remember having some leadership conversation where I kept thinking I was supposed to be a leader at this point. Okay. I'd already assumed I was supposed to be there. Right.
You that lady, right? Yeah.
And so I realized you cannot push yourself up to leadership. You typically have to be plucked. People move you up. You remember, so you basically can't just pop your head up and it's almost like a game. You really need to be showcasing your skills where you are so others see your work. So in organizations, what I call it, the pie theory, performance, image, exposure. The performance is what you actually do. But of course, there are people who are seeing you getting exposed, which is what women can help each other do. Get exposure in certain settings to be able to grow from there. So that's why, I kind of taken that as an opportunity to mentor young women. I have a group that I call Lady Legends.
Okay.
And Lady Legends basically helps young women to just continue to use their power and excel. And it's not a something that I get paid to do or anything. I don't have a nonprofit.
Right.
I just want to help other women to be stronger and be successful. And that's been one thing I do too. And I have been doing it for many years.
And I knew you did a lot of stuff with women. I did know that. I didn't know at what rate and state that you did it in, but you are an example of what it takes to be a leader. Like when you walk in the room, and anytime I've ever seen you, right, it was a glow. It was a bright atmosphere for me, right?
Thank you.
So you have a great energy about yourself, and you have a giving energy about yourself. Also, she has this energy like, if you don't get this done, we need to get done. I'm gonna let you know too.
Only if you're in my classroom.
No, but I do get that from you that I can be the nicest person, but you don't want to see the bad side of me. So when I'm around you, it's people that you be around, men and women, that you don't want to disappoint.
That's right.
I don't want to disappoint Alice.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Very nice.
So when I'm around you, I always want to be, when I saw you, whatever, I'm always hoping like, do I look my best? You know what I'm saying? And now that she's a doctor, I got to make sure. Yeah. But I want to go here now because now it's time for us to connect. Sky Connect, right?
Yes.
How did that come about? Because I know you've been doing it for years, and I've seen it in different shapes and forms.
That's right.
Of what you was doing. Now, people all across the globe know about Sky Connect, but for the audience that don't know about Sky Connect, one of your big companies that you own and you've produced and grown, what is that?
Well, Sky Connect Incorporated, I started in 2013. I'm actually what they call a serial entrepreneur. So I look at business ventures and I look at partnerships and collaborations as a way to grow and be able to excel. And so I started Sky Connect Incorporated when I left the utility company. And I did so with basically I put in a little less than $5,000 into my business. That's all I had at the time. And I wanted to start a business where I could be an executive problem solver for corporations.
Okay.
Basically helping corporations solve their issues with a small boutique firm. So I was working a whole lot, doing a lot of, board retreats and trainings. I was doing supply diversity and DEI kind of work at the time. I was also doing work in the space of strategy and also too working with events management with a partner. And so when I started that, I realized, okay, this was okay. This was good. I can do this. My first client came on and I was helping her with her marketing her services. And then we grew. So after about maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 years or so, I started hiring people. And I must tell you, Joe, that I made the most impact in the community and financially when I started hiring more people.
Really?
I did, yes. And so Sky Connect is located. So now what we do, we provide services to organizations and corporations now to help them with board retreats, employee development as well. And we also do a lot of technology training. So we've kind of refined our focus over the years, even though it's been since 2013. We continue to do great work. We do some community engagement work that we've done for a number of organizations. And because I do teach as well, I teach part-time. I also enjoy empowering students.
Wow.
And helping them in that area as well of entrepreneurship and corporate strategy. So that's kind of like my other opportunity that I do there. But that's what I do with Sky Connect. And so it's been an opportunity for me to help people along the way with my brand. I have a cohort coming up. I've got some webinar classes that are coming up as well. And so, it's been exciting for me. And Sky Connect was named after my son, Skylar.
I did not know that.
Yes. And he probably, initially didn't know it either. And so so Sky Connect, so SKYE Connect. And so we've been able to do business at this point. It's been about 12 states that we've done business in. And so even though I don't necessarily do business as broadly as that, I still speak all over the country nationally about, issues around technology, issues around business principles, issues around organizational development. So those are my key areas that I focus on.
If y'all just locking in right now, man, we have the fabulous Dr. Alice Gordon Holloway. She's in the building with us today here on Coffee Conversations with Joe Lockett here at the Filter Coffee Parlor. And I am learning so much that I thought I knew a lot about Alice, but man, it is so much that I'm learning. And I hope that young ladies are listening, and women, if you're in your 40s and in your 50s, you can go back to college. Okay.
Yes. You can go back and do anything you want to do.
See,
at this point, it's your world is your oyster. But you have to put a plan together. You have to be intentional about it. And you have to set a course of being forward. And don't let nothing stop you. Because right now, as you get older, you realize you may have more time, behind you than ahead of you. You never know.
Right.
You never know. And but I do think it's important to have your own village. People who are your people who are saying you go, make it happen if you're going to have that. But I also think there's something to be said for operating in silence too. If you need to just kind of make it happen behind the scenes and then come out. So you need a mixture of both, I think.
And with this being Black History Month, and I want to emphasize this being Black History Month, man, I'm proud of you.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
I mean,
Thank you.
Like, we have to celebrate each other.
Yes.
Regardless of what other people in the world want to say. This is Black History Month.
Yes.
And we are greatness. And congratulations to my friend.
Yes.
To see everything that you've done, man, to see the glow on your face. The kids are grown. You have grown this business to be a multi-million-dollar business. You're global now. I am so happy and proud of you of everything you're doing. I know you got a book that we're going to be talking about here and some other stuff that you but before we get into that, this other stuff that you're doing, I want to stop and take a minute. And what would you say for Black History Month to the women? The shoulders that you stood on, and now you're leading the example. What is the word that my friend Alice want to give to the women today?
I think my word, Joe, would be relentless. Be relentless in your pursuit for continued lifelong learning. Be relentless in your pursuit for finding meaningful, cherished relationships. Be relentless in pursuing your health, because health is wealth.
Yes.
And be relentless basically and just kind of having fun.
Relentless.
Yeah. And so that would be my word as well. And I think I want to kind of come back a little bit and say I'm proud of you as well, because you reinvented yourself. And I still remember watching and hearing all those funny shows. And I just kept thinking, what is Joe going to say?
Right.
What is Boz going to say? I think that was so much fun. And I still enjoy that. And so you basically have done the same thing. You reinvented yourself. And that's, I think, is what I'm doing a little bit too.
But I think, when we look at the space, right? We even got people, our camera guys here, right? And I've seen them over the years. And shout out to our crew, right,
Yes.
for doing that thing behind the scenes, right?
Yes.
Because without them, they wouldn't be us. But looking at everybody, right? This is the time, I believe, Alice, for us to shine, right?
I agree with that.
Because there's nothing being taken away that God don't want to be taken away from us, right? And so whatever is meant to be, it's going to make us stronger, right? And I truly believe that for the world, for the globe, for everybody, right? Don't get caught in doom and despair, right? Be inspired.
Right.
Like you said, be relentless in what you're doing, because what I've found for me, right, when someone tries to take oxygen or take something from me, it's great. It hurts.
It hurts.
But it's good because I come out on the other side looking good and smelling better. I don't know if you remember the movie Shawshank Redemption.
I have seen that movie. It's been a long time, Joe. You're taking me back.
Okay, so you remember it was Morgan Freeman and what's his name, right? And old boy, he was in jail, right? And what did he have to crawl through to get to the other side? The sewer, right? And it was 4 miles. But when he got to the other side, right? And he dropped them clothes, and it happened to be raining. Remember?
I do remember.
And he cleaned himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, he crawled through, and they said,
whole lot.
And if you go back and watch the movie, right? He crawled through all of that to get to where he had to go, because he, like you said, I knew where I was going. You said earlier in this interview, relentless, right? Stayed focused, right, and went through that. And I think that's what people have to understand now. Like, we've been comfortable,
right,
for a long time. And sometimes I think as human beings, we forget, everybody in this country forget the shoulders that we stand upon.
Yes, yes.
How do we get to where we are, right? And this is for gender, ethnicities, whatever, right? Doesn't matter. Everybody standing on somebody's shoulders.
That's right. That's right.
And I think at the end of the day, we have to realize that, yeah, we got comfortable. Some things went astray. And now God is reshaping and reminding us, don't forget where you came from.
Exactly. And you know what? I think this, I'll go back to a word that our pastor has been talking about, is thriving.
Okay.
Thriving, and how we able to thrive. And everybody's thriving is different. But I do believe that for the women that are out there, and those who are celebrating Black History Month, and those who are remembering those who are celebrating Black History Month, I think it's a time of reflection as well, to be able to really look and see where we're trying to go, but also where we've been. That we've been to a place where we're now in a position of influence in many areas. We're in a position of opportunity in many areas, and we're in a position of being able to move in things and shape our future. So how do we do that? We do that, to me, by a combination of deliberate, intentional action. That's why I continue to think that we need to thrive. I call this. I have these theories that I come up with, and one is called utilizing the mom theory. And how this mom theory is about maximizing, optimizing, and monetizing our experiences. And how do we do that? How do we focus on that? But also, too, making sure we have good, strong relationships, because we're not built to be alone. We're not built to just be by ourselves. We need a crew. We need a team like we have here today. And shout out, like you said, to the guys and girls that are here helping us. The guys, I guess, today. But it really is exciting. But I do think that with Black History Month, we do need to take a little step back and say, you know what? We doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good, but we have a lot. We got a little ways to go.
But we're doing great.
We're doing pretty good.
We're doing great. We're doing great. We're doing great.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question, Alice?
Sure. Joe, you're thinking real hard on this question.
No, it's actually a really good question.
Okay.
It's nothing bad here. When you were growing up as a little girl, when Alice was a little girl, right? Who was the woman that inspired you, that gave you that drive? I know your auntie was one of them. But I want to go back, because it's Black History Month, right? That you looked to and said, man, thank you. And it pushed you a little bit more forward when you found out about her.
Well, first of all, I think that when I was a little girl, it wasn't a time when people with brown complexion was in style, so to speak.
Right.
And because of that, that was one issue.
Mm-hmm.
The other issue was, being raised in the South, also had its own challenges. But I think once I saw my aunt, who was an older woman, I was actually adopted in their family. So it was an inter-family adoption.
Sure.
But once I was able to kind of realize that the road that my mother traveled and how much she sacrificed for us and how much she really poured into us, I was even more encouraged and impressed by her, because she was a chemical operator. She was doing well. She had her own place. She had things happening for her. And so I said, oh, I love that. Plus she was a really, outgoing, personable, attractive spirit, fun-loving person. She passed away, unfortunately, very early in life, but she really left me with a lot. And so she was one of the first people that I remember saying, oh, I want to be like her.
Wow.
And then, of course, I was reading, this is going to date me a little bit here, but I was reading Reader's Digest magazine. Okay, that's way back. Okay, that was the only thing that was sitting around.
Right, on the table, a little bit of small magazine with a little crossword person in it. Yeah.
And I was reading it, and I was thinking, I would be going back in my mind thinking, I want to travel there. I want to go to Belize. I want to go to Jamaica. I want to go to these places. I want to go to Niagara Falls. I want to go here, because I was reading about it. So it transfixed my mind to think differently. And so seeing that, I also started seeing people that was cool. I was like, oh, this is good.
Right.
And hearing places. So I think that we have to always be lifelong learners when you think about the process. And that's why I talk a lot to entrepreneurs about the fact that even though you're starting a business as a startup, you had one for a really long time, it doesn't mean you can't continue to grow and learn. Always learn, no matter if you're running your own operation or you're the CEO of a corporation.
Something just crossed my mind when you started saying that. Because of what's happening in the society and lots of people losing their jobs.
Yes, they are.
Okay. And they've been there 15, 20 years. Some of people going to be in their 40s and 50s. It's not going to be enough jobs in society at some point that has your skill set.
Excuse me.
Since you are the person that talks about entrepreneurship, right?
I do.
And you went to school, when you was in your 40s. What does this look like for people right now? And what would the advice that y'all getting free advice here from the doctor, that if you find yourself in this position and you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or what you talk about, what are some of the steps, maybe 2 or 3 steps that they need to start looking at right now?
Well, right now, I think you want to do a couple of things. First, you want to master the art of innovation and technology. Be able to find a way to be innovative. In other words, think about what you can produce or what you can market or what you can sell service-wise or product-wise that people will pay you for. Number one. Number two, consider how technology has changed the game with people. Technology has enhanced so many different elements in life. Every element of life, from parking decks to taking your blood pressure, for example, all has been improved by technology. Find a way to adapt those technologies. Also, number three, determine exactly what skills you currently have and what skills you need to have to compete in this marketplace. Because the skills we had 20 years ago are not the same skills we need or in the same degree. Okay. And number four, determine exactly where you see yourself in 2 years. People say 5 years, 10 years. I just say 2. I say 1 year because you have to think about taking these chunks and baby steps. So if you're starting a new enterprise right now and you're trying to get out of a corporation, you say, hey, I'm tired of working for someone. I want to work for myself. It will be the hardest thing you would do. But it's the most rewarding thing you will do. Lori Grenier from Shark Tank says entrepreneurs are the only people who will work 80 hours to avoid working 40 hours for someone else.
Yes.
Okay. And so that is truly us. And so what happens, I look at the fact that Dr. Martin Luther King had this passage that talked about faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the entire staircase. So I think as entrepreneurs, that's where we are right now. We have to reinvent ourselves. We got to figure out how to make something happen. And you have to think about the goal setting. How do you set your goals to be able to be successful? Because all of us have skills and talents, but every skill and talent we have may not necessarily pay the mortgage or the house note. So you've got to figure out what's going to pay you. And you may need a strong 9 to 5 for a few years to launch into a new venture.
Right.
But I say for those people who are inclined like that, go for it. Find a way, make a plan though. Some people just jump out and think, okay, it's going to make it work. No, you got to be looking at market conditions. You got to be looking at the technology adaptation. You need to be looking at the people you can hire or resources you may need as well. You got to be looking at the market conditions. Right now, we're in a remote work environment. So going to get a big office space is not something you always need
to do. Yeah.
Need to do that as well. So I think you have to be realistically looking at this. And I'm hosting a business valuation webinar in March, and basically helping a business owner, mid-sized to small companies, value their businesses to either be succession-based planning, where they can, hey, grandpa had it for years and now he wants to do something else and move on, or you're trying to buy into a business as well, what things you should be looking for, or you just want to value your business. So it's something about the assets and the liabilities you have, but also too the other things that are happening. It could be some goodwill. People may love your baked goods or may love your items. And so that's a long answer to your question.
No, but I think
it focuses
on
a whole lot of, the core of why entrepreneurs are able to transition themselves now than they were beforehand.
I think something you said is very important, because I had to learn this, and you and I both probably did. When you're an entrepreneur, especially with this environment, you got to find something that's going to sustain you while you build your thing. Because when we were growing up, they would say, well, drop your job and work hard and focus. You remember that used to be,
remember that.
But they say, because you don't have time. And so we kind of bought into that.
Yes.
And you go broke, right?
I was going to say you starve.
And you lose everything, right?
Yes.
And then it causes a lot of problems. But I would tell, but like you said, right? I don't care what the 9 to 5 is, right? But find something that's going to pay your bills as you build your business, right? If you're passionate about your business, you will find time to build your business after your 9 to 5. But always have money to sustain yourself, because a brokepreneur don't never become an entrepreneur. Okay.
I like that, Joe. I like that, Joe. Or they'll be, I look at it. Some of the research that I'm actually embarking on is looking at optimism and entrepreneurship, hope and resiliency. And what happens a lot, there's research that says entrepreneurs are overly optimistic, which means we may miss some things. We may miss some key concepts about problems that we may encounter.
Right.
Which is a whole nother issue. So I can't wait to share that with you next time.
Okay.
I can talk more about it.
I want to come on your podcast, but I want to tell people this too. Don't overthink what you're doing. Right. That's just me. I plan, but I'm going to jump in the water.
Okay.
Right. Because sometimes, man, you got to learn how to swim in the midst of that water. Right. So I'm not going to go jump dead in the ocean.
Sure.
But I'm getting off the beach and jumping in the water, says it cold a little bit. That's me, right?
Okay.
And the reason why I say that, because if you're like me, if I don't test it and get a taste of it, I get bored or I get afraid and I move away from it. So I have to get some kind of action going to see, okay, it's moving.
That's right.
All the planning for me, I've done it both ways. I've did a bunch of planning, and by all the planning, it gets too much.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so it's like, man, I ain't gonna do all that. But if I get in it and I'm looking like this beach is here, I'm out here in the middle of the ocean, I ain't going back. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep going, because what happens is somebody tells you how to swim, or somebody brings you something to help you keep going, right?
That's right.
So for me, I'm always like, if I'm going to do it, I'm gonna go get in the middle of it. Even when I got in the radio, I didn't know nothing about radio.
But you stayed in it, Joe. That's what I was impressed with you about. You stayed in it. You were committed to it, and you made sure you were excellent at your craft. And that's what I was really impressed with, because you saw something and you educated yourself about the industry. Yes. You educate yourself about the knowledge of the technology. And to me, look where you are today.
God has blessed me, but it was that thing that I jumped into it.
You jumped into it.
Because the radio, when I started radio, it actually was the beginning and the end of my marriage.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
It was one of the factors of why, everything kind of started to happen, because I was in it. Right. And so, and it was costing.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't making any money. I was a brokepreneur. Right.
I understand.
But it stresses the home life. Right. And the radio show, I wasn't in radio where they were paying me. I was paying for the show.
I understand.
I was paying for hours, 2 or 3 hours to be on the show. That's a couple of $1,000s a month.
Got you.
So it was either pay for the radio show or don't pay for the bills at home. And it started to cause problems, right?
Yes, I understand.
And no disrespect to anybody, but what I'm saying is I had to make a choice because I'm in it, right? And so, do I stop and go get a job and go be a husband, right?
Wow.
Or do I keep doing this radio show and say, trust in me, I'm gonna be that guy one day, Steve Harvey. I want to be like Steve Harvey. Well, what wound up happening is right before everything kind of went haywire, Steve Harvey congratulated me on my evening show.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. Good. But if I wouldn't have stuck with it, but when he congratulated me, things was falling apart.
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
I see.
Right. Things were, I had got there. Because my goal was I started on the weekend. Right. I said, my goal, I want to have a daytime radio show just like Steve Harvey. That was my goal. That was my dream.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
If anybody knows me, they know what that dream was. Right. And I finally got the Joe Lockett daytime show. That got to Steve Harvey. He heard about it. He announced it on his show, talking with Shirley Strawberry, and all of them on his radio show, National Radio Show.
Wow.
Told me congratulations on getting my radio show back in Birmingham, Alabama. Right. Huge deal for me.
Big deal.
My life falling apart. Right. Yeah. One of the biggest moments of my life, but everything was crumbling. But I had to make a decision. Right. I'm telling y'all, a lot of folks ain't gonna make those kind of decisions. I'm still here today. Now, would I have made the same choice? Knowing what I know now? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because the way I look at it is, I don't want to be in a marriage where I'm not happy.
Understand.
Everybody cannot be happy. Everybody can be happy but except me. I'd rather for you to go ahead and be happy without me and let me figure out what I need to go do. And that's selfish as hell. I get it. But God didn't put me on this earth just to make other people happy. I got to be happy too.
Yes, you do.
So I have to. I had to figure that out, and that was a tough lesson for me. And that's why I'm still probably single now, because I'm not going to drag nobody else's daughter through what I'm doing.
I see.
Before I get to what I need. I need my time. I need my space. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not going to even play with your feelings. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get into a relationship or try to marry anybody at this point, because why? I know what my mindset is, and you would get left behind.
Wow. Well, at least you have a reality check.
Yeah.
At least you have a reality check about it. And that's what I think most people, they don't really have the reality check about where they really are. And so you seem to have been through a lot. We all have.
Man, listen.
But you've come out on the other side of it.
Said, but God
for all of us. And so I continue to encourage you. And matter of fact, as a segue, I want to invite you on my podcast.
Sure.
I've started a new podcast. I'm Uncharted Territory. Uncharted Territory. So I probably need your counsel and your guidance on doing so.
Whatever.
But no, seriously, it's called In the Frame.
Okay.
In the Frame Business Podcast. I was able to interview. Matter of fact, I want to share this book with you.
Okay.
He's actually an old friend, but Steve Hightowers for Hightowers Petroleum.
Okay.
It's actually called
Your camera's right there. Go let people see.
Fueling from $0 to $1 billion. And you can see it's got all my notes in it as well. But anyway, he actually he's nearly a billionaire.
Okay.
And he actually has been an old friend from many years ago in my old energy business. And so he's got some really good lessons learned. So I really do believe in reading and understanding other people's story. And so I'm looking forward to continue to talk about him. He's on my podcast as well.
Okay.
And I've got a couple other people that you'll probably know about coming up. I've got some folks.
So when is your podcast? Have you started?
I started a couple of weeks ago. Well, maybe a couple of months ago. Thank you. And so so it's not as it's every couple of weeks.
Okay.
And so I want to invite you on to talk about your story. I want to be able to encourage you as you encourage me. And I want your listeners and your viewers to come over and check you out on my platform. It's on YouTube.
Right.
So you can go to my YouTube channel at Alice Gordon. I'm sorry, at the Alice Connect.
At the Alice Connect.
At the Alice Connect. Okay. And so, but yeah, I'm gonna be able to bring you on because I think your story is also a very powerful story of reinvention.
Thank you.
And re-engagement and refocusing. Because you've been doing all of that. That is the Joe Lockett story, right?
It is. But this is a play on my words, but I always say stay locked in.
I love that.
Right?
I mean, I think that's great. That needs to be your book.
Yeah. Well, okay.
It needs to be your book.
Yeah.
Stay locked in.
I had to stay locked in. But I think, like you said, right, in this conversation, you got to know what you want. You got to know the destination you're trying to get to. And what I had to realize, and the toughest thing, Alice, that was toughest for me was everybody's not going on your journey with you.
No, they're not.
The people that you start with, unfortunately, I can look into this camera and tell y'all they're probably not going to be there with you at the end. I talk about this when I was on my last podcast, right? That I don't want. And there was a guy on the Pivot. I stole it from him. I don't know his name, but I'm gonna make sure I get his name next time I tell the story. But the Pivot podcast, right? With Ryan Clark and those guys, right? The light skinned guy with the dreads.
Channing.
Channing. Okay. He said that his wife is his co-pilot.
Yes.
Right. he don't want right a passenger. Right.
You know what? I watched your program. You talked about that.
That was yes.
Okay. I didn't know where it was from.
Yeah, from the pivot, right?
Okay.
And so I'm that guy now that understands that if I ever do it again, right, I gotta have a co-pilot, right?
Yes.
A passenger ain't gonna work for me.
Yes.
Because if you want to take a back seat on my dream, or I take a back seat on your dream, right? If the plane go down, we need to go together. And if you ain't in it with me together, we this ain't gonna work. You can't be a passenger on the plane that I'm driving.
Yeah, you need to be a co-pilot.
Got to be a co-pilot. You got to know how to drive the plane.
Right.
If something happens to me, you need to be able to drive this plane too.
That's right.
And a lot of times when you get married, right, you're not equally yoked in that way. Right?
Enough said. Yes.
The men and the women, they're not equally yoked, right? And they can't feel you can't do the co-pilot.
Yeah, you need a co-pilot because when things happen, things will happen. You do need to have someone who can actually take the reins as well.
Right.
And so that's why I think you have to slow walk it.
Right.
You know, because don't rush into it.
You know, in marriage, you start off as a co-pilot, right? But I think sometimes we say, well, I'll be right back and go to the bathroom, right?
I'm going to get some popcorn.
Right. And then you sit down in the passenger seat and they don't want to get back in the co-pilot seat with you. And when they come back up there, right, they was comfortable back there, or you know, things happen back in the passenger seat where, you know, like, you know, I don't really want to be getting the passenger, you know, that this plane ain't going where I wanted to go to. And then so when you landed, when the plane is landed, you don't realize that person is about to get off.
Wow. Instead of being in the seat right there with you, next to you.
But y'all broke down way before.
Yeah. Way before you landed.
Yeah. Way before you landed. Right. So that happens with everybody. But what I do want to tell everybody is that's empowering is that during Black History Month, with men and women doing very powerful things, right? Having very powerful people on my show. I appreciate you coming on. Yes. Sky Connect, Doctor. I think there was one more thing that you had here that you wanted to talk about.
I was going to talk about that I actually have written
before we get out of here.
Yeah, written a book and everything, and I'm still finalizing a few pieces of it. But I'm basically talking about the secrets behind what corporations don't tell mid-size and small companies.
So you're writing a book?
Yes. I've already written it, actually.
Oh, you've already written.
I've already written the book.
That's the book right there.
Yeah, well, yeah,
it is.
It is, yes. And what's happening? What's happening is that there are a lot of secrets that I've learned over the years from many people about what corporations are not sharing with the small companies, and the importance of relationship building, the importance of developing a strategy, and what people fear when they're dealing with smaller companies as far as bigger companies. And so I worked for larger companies before, and I really believe there's a secret to what I'm able to share with people. And so that's what my book is about. So it's really giving a blueprint.
Well, when your book come back out, I want you to come back on the show.
Okay.
And also, I need you to go ahead and make sure that people can find you on all social media platforms.
Right. Well, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Instagram at Dr. Alice G. Holloway. You can also find me on X as well as Dr. Alice G. Holloway. You can find me on Twitter. On TikTok. And that one's I Dream Success. And you can also find me, of course, on LinkedIn, which is my full name, Dr. Alice G. Holloway, and Facebook as well. So I'm available, and I have YouTube too.
Okay.
So YouTube is at the Alice Connect. So I'm on all the social channels. Happy to work with different entrepreneurs in a cohorted session, or individually if they choose based on, the packaging that we have available, and corporations. So I'm excited about it. And so, Joe, thank you for the opportunity. This has been fun.
I want to thank you again, Alice, for making time out of your busy schedule while you're in town.
Yes.
To come hang out with me.
And my tea as well from Filter Coffee Parlor.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So thank you guys so much, man. Make sure you guys stay locked in to the one and only and connect with my girl, Alice. Lock it in with your boy. We're going to be doing our thing this afternoon, man. I love y'all. I'm thanking y'all for having a cup of coffee with us this morning. And y'all know how we do it. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great morning.